Hello, friends. The Big Food, Big Pharma evil nexus is trying its best to make us abandon our real, nutritious fatty foods in favor of their easy-to-produce, profit-driven, unhealthy food alternatives, all in guise of innovation. And now they have taken it a step further ahead, claiming to have reached the biggest food revolution of modern times. Well, a UK-based startup has introduced something that could fundamentally destroy our health, particularly for those of us who rely on high-fat diets like carnivore and keto, where real butter, dairy, and saturated fats are essential for our optimal body function. The company, called Better Dairy, claims to be producing dairy products without cow's milk, using an artificial process to assemble dairy proteins into products like cheese and butter, all without the natural foundation of real animal-sourced nutrition. This sounds pretty futuristic at least. But what's the real game being played here with us? Why is the mainstream media spinning this as a revolutionary breakthrough, focusing entirely on irrelevant details, while keeping the actual dark truth completely hidden from us? Now, based on our extensive knowledge and experience in this regard, before we break it all down, let's first take a look at how the media is presenting this story. There's a short clip we want you to watch here with close attention.
It may stretch like cheese and taste like cheese, but would you try this product made without cow's milk? While there is vegan cheese on the market, a UK startup is hoping to take the animal-free cheese-making process to the next level.
Our benchmark of success is traditional cheese. We want products that taste, melt, stretch like the original that comes from a cow. The only difference in our case is that there is no cow involved and it's sustainable.
Better Dairy says its cheese has a lower environmental impact, as it does not require methane-belching cattle or lush green pastures. The key is to make an animal-free version of casein, which is a milk protein that contributes to the taste and texture of cheese. Chief Scientific Officer David Nunn explains.
So animal-free, where we use precision engineering, precision fermentation to produce microbes that can produce the proteins and all the additional constituents that go to make up high-quality dairy products without the cow.
Founder and CEO Javan Nagaraja says that by programming microorganisms to produce casein, they can make a variety of dairy products. As much as 40% of global methane emissions may come from agriculture, but estimates vary. Nearly 3/4 of that comes from livestock and dairy. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, about 25 times more effective than CO2 at trapping radiation, which causes global warming. Dairy production also consumes a vast amount of resources like land and water. Better Dairy is currently producing casein and another protein, osteopontin, at a lab scale, but the company is planning to increase production capacity and is in the process of navigating the regulatory landscape in target markets, including the US.
Well. So many misleading claims packed into such a short segment. But let's not get ourselves fooled here. Let's cut through the deception and uncover the real truth we all need to know. This story deeply involves all of us. Over the past few years, we've seen a massive shift in the food industry. A shift that is being marketed as innovation, but is actually a systematic replacement of real, nutrient-dense foods with ultra-processed, lab-grown alternatives. What started with artificial meat, heavily funded by billionaires like Bill Gates, has now expanded into nearly every corner of our diet. It all began with the push for synthetic meats, such as those developed by companies like Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat. These products, filled with genetically modified soy, synthetic oils, and artificial flavorings, were marketed as sustainable alternatives to traditional meat. But they turned out to be highly processed and metabolically harmful, filled with industrial ingredients that disrupt hormones, increase inflammation, and fail to provide the same bioavailable nutrients as real animal proteins. Then, in 2023, the Artificial Butter Project was unveiled, a bizarre creation made from carbon dioxide designed to replace traditional dairy fats. Marketed as an eco-friendly breakthrough, this synthetic butter lacked the essential fatty acids, fat-soluble vitamins, and complex lipid structures that make real butter a cornerstone of human nutrition. Instead, it was a chemically engineered product, processed in industrial facilities with synthetic inputs that do not metabolize in the body the way real fats do. And now, we arrive at the latest innovation on this path, the so-called next big food revolution. The UK-based startup, Better Dairy, has introduced what they call a scientific breakthrough in dairy production, an artificial method that allows them to create milk, cheese, and butter without cows. The technology behind this is called Precision Fermentation, and it is being sold to the public as a natural, sustainable alternative to traditional dairy farming. Their eco-friendly pitch revolves around methane reduction and improved ethics, but a closer look reveals a tangled web of corporate patents, questionable health outcomes, and a direct threat to the nutrient-dense whole food foundation that supports those of us healing with the carnivore diet. But the crucial questions that need to be answered here are, what exactly is this precision fermentation thing? What key nutritional elements this artificial dairy lacks? Plus, what does the unbiased research tell us about this whole thing? And most importantly, which 10 deadly diseases it would cause to us, damaging our health forever? Let's find out. Starting off with the process of precision fermentation. Well, precision fermentation sounds almost benign, even charming, especially when compared to industrial livestock operations. Many articles describe it as akin to brewing beer or producing yogurt. Yet, the truth is more complex. In artisanal cheesemaking, for instance, milk from grass-fed cows undergoes a delicate transformation using cultures, rennet, and careful aging conditions. Precision fermentation, on the other hand, relies on genetic engineering of microbes, often yeast, bacteria, or fungi, so that they produce the proteins found in cow's milk, typically casein and whey. To accomplish this, scientists may insert sequences of cow DNA into microbial genomes or design synthetic DNA that codes for what they deem to be the essential milk proteins. These microbes are then cultivated in bioreactors or fermentation vats, which are large industrial vessels where the environment, temperature, pH, oxygen levels, is tightly controlled. The microbes are fed a diet of refined sugars, industrial nutrients, and other chemical additives to maximize protein output. Once the fermentation completes, the mixture contains the desired proteins, microbial biomass, and a host of metabolic byproducts. The next step involves filtering and purifying those milk proteins, which can be somewhat tricky, as these proteins might carry post-translational modifications or structural variations that differ from the real thing. Technicians then combine the isolated proteins with lab-created fats, emulsifiers, and synthetic vitamins to yield a substance that looks and tastes somewhat like dairy. Proponents claim it's molecularly identical to real dairy, but a thorough scientific perspective suggests otherwise. Even minor differences in how the proteins fold, or in the composition of added fats, can significantly alter nutrient bioavailability and effects on human physiology. For people on the carnivore diet, the real question is, how do these differences manifest in our bodies, especially when many carnivores are coming from backgrounds of severe inflammation, autoimmune disorders, or metabolic dysfunction? The short answer is that lab-grown dairy can be missing many of the cofactors and micronutrients found in actual cow's milk or butter, while introducing new, untested elements that may trigger immune responses. On paper, it all appears really cutting-edge and green, but within the body, the story gets drastically different. Now, before exploring the top health hazards this innovation would bring to us, we must quickly understand the key difference in nutritional profile of this artificial product and the natural substance. Carnivore enthusiasts know that real dairy, especially from grass-fed cows, offers a nutrient profile that goes far beyond casein and whey proteins. It comprises a delicate tapestry of short, medium, and long-chain fatty acids, beneficial microbes, enzymes, and a host of fat-soluble vitamins. This synergy of components aids in everything from digestive health to hormone regulation. By contrast, synthetic dairy made via precision fermentation zeroes in on just the primary proteins, with the rest of the product cobbled together from plant-based or lab-grown fats and synthetic or fortified vitamins that may not be in their most bioavailable forms. In the real dairy context, the presence of vitamins A, D, E, and K2 is a game changer for metabolic function. Grass-fed butter and cheese contain vitamin K2 in forms that help direct calcium deposits into bones and away from arteries. They also contain beta-carotene, converted to vitamin A in the body, and naturally occurring vitamin D, all of which rely on the synergy of healthy fats to be fully absorbed. Artificial dairy lacks this synergy, often requiring separate enrichment steps that might not replicate the same molecular matrix. Without that matrix, you're dealing with potential malabsorption or incomplete utilization of nutrients. Additionally, real dairy features phospholipids and cholesterol in the membranes of fat globules. Studies have repeatedly highlighted how these structures enhance the assimilation of other critical nutrients and play roles in cell membrane integrity throughout the human body. A lab-based approach might skip phospholipids entirely, or try to replace them with surfactants that do not necessarily have the same beneficial properties. The end result is a product that is nutritionally hollow compared to the real thing. For someone on a carnivore diet, turning to such an artificial product can degrade the diet's entire premise, obtaining maximum nourishment and health restoration from natural animal-based sources. Some might argue that if the proteins are the same, the product is the same. Yet in biology, proteins are heavily influenced by post-translational modifications, folding patterns, and the environment in which they're produced. The internal environment of a cow's mammary gland is wildly different from that of a steel vat brimming with genetically modified yeast. Even slight variations in glycosylation patterns or protein folding can mean the difference between a benign protein and a potential allergen. This is a significant concern for individuals who have spent years healing from food sensitivities or autoimmune conditions by strictly adhering to a carnivore regimen. And now, moving to the most crucial section of the entire video. Health hazards of adopting artificial dairy, undoing the healing powers of carnivore and keto. Individuals who gravitate toward carnivore have often tried multiple diets before discovering that cutting out processed foods, sugars, and plant toxins can yield dramatic improvements. Many report relief from rheumatoid arthritis, type 2 diabetes, obesity, autoimmune thyroid disorders, mental health struggles, and more. The introduction of synthetic dairy into their plan might compromise these gains, given how crucial real dairy fats and proteins can be for cellular repair and hormonal balance. Below is a detailed explanation of how artificial dairy could disrupt these healing pathways, potentially leading to the deterioration of health, especially among those already fighting chronic ailments. The natural synergy in real dairy supports ketogenic metabolism, fosters a healthy gut microbiome, and provides nutrients that assist in cellular regeneration. When you swap that out for a product rife with industrial fats, unproven proteins, and emulsifiers, you shift from a diet that's deeply nourishing to one that can fuel inflammation and metabolic chaos. On top of that, many people who come to carnivore are already in a fragile state metabolically. Their body may react poorly to synthetic compounds, and they can experience allergic-like reactions, flares of autoimmune symptoms, or gut permeability. Artificial dairy could sabotage the delicate metabolic balance that carnivores often cultivate. The diet's hallmark is consistency in macros, often high in fat, moderate in protein, and minimal to zero carbs, and reliance on unprocessed or minimally processed animal foods. If those animal foods are replaced with lab-engineered approximations, the entire dietary approach shifts from ancestral to experimental, risking the unraveling of the health transformations so many have worked hard to achieve. Friends, before we move ahead to the top 10 diseases caused by the consumption of these artificial products, we would like to know, how has been your experience on the carnivore diet so far? How much butter you consume each day? And what health conditions you have healed so far? Do share your journey in the comments. And one more request. Subscribe now to our channel and become a proud member of our vibrant carnivore community, helping us spread the healing message further. And now, the 10 major diseases potentially triggered by artificial dairy. It begins with heart disease, where chronic inflammation and poor lipid profiles pave the way for arterial plaque buildup. Artificial dairy, often lacking the beneficial fatty acids and vitamins found in natural dairy, can disrupt fat metabolism, heighten inflammatory markers, and encourage oxidative stress. Over the long term, this could elevate one's risk of atherosclerosis, hypertension, and compromised cardiovascular function. The second major concern revolves around type 2 diabetes, as poor quality fats and unnatural proteins can lead to insulin resistance, hamper glucose disposal, and induce chronic hyperglycemia. A third potential affliction is obesity, which can be exacerbated by the unnatural composition of synthetic dairy. Individuals may see the scale climb if their body responds to lab-engineered fats by storing them rather than burning them, or if inflammation leads to water retention and hormonal imbalances. Fourth, there's autoimmune disease, where any deviation from the body's homeostatic norms can trigger flare-ups. Genetically modified proteins can be perceived as foreign, prompting a harmful immune response in those predisposed to autoimmune conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. Fifth is cancer, a condition that many in the carnivore community have managed through a low-inflammation, ketone-driven metabolic state. Robbing the diet of its anti-inflammatory synergy could weaken the body's defenses. Sixth, neurodegenerative disorders, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis, thrive in environments with high systemic inflammation and compromised mitochondrial function. Artificial dairy could exacerbate these conditions by failing to provide the neuroprotective fatty acids found in natural dairy. Seventh, gut disorders like IBD or IBS may worsen if individuals consume a constant influx of artificial emulsifiers, stabilizers, and synthetic proteins that irritate the intestinal lining and disrupt beneficial microbiota. Eighth, we might see a rise in mental health disorders, such as anxiety and depression, as studies increasingly reveal the role of nutrition in neurotransmitter regulation and inflammation in the brain. A poorly nourished brain is more vulnerable to mood dysregulation. Ninth, hormonal imbalances can be triggered by the absence of cholesterol and the presence of inferior fats. Real dairy supplies raw materials for hormone synthesis, while synthetic dairy might be too processed and lacking crucial cofactors. 10th, we have metabolic syndrome, an umbrella condition involving central obesity, dyslipidemia, hypertension, and insulin resistance. Over time, consistent consumption of lab-based dairy can tip the scales toward these syndromic conditions, setting individuals on a fast track to chronic illness. In short, each of these diseases stems from underlying processes like systemic inflammation, immune dysregulation, or compromised nutrient assimilation. By interfering with these basic biological pathways, artificial dairy can break the chain of healing that the carnivore diet so effectively fosters. Those who have spent months or years reversing these conditions often do so by adhering to the pure, unadulterated nutrition of animal-based foods, which is a stark contrast to the complex, synthetic profile of lab-grown dairy. Friends, now moving to what research tells us about the consumption of artificial dairy. Critics of these warnings often demand scientific proof. While long-term studies specifically on artificial dairy are scarce, given how new it is, multiple research projects shed light on the dangers of heavily processed foods, genetically modified proteins, and synthetic fats. Here is a detailed look at some highly relevant studies in this regard. In Ultra-Processed Foods and Cardiometabolic Health by Montero et al., 2019, published in the British Medical Journal, the authors tracked over 100,000 participants and found that each 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption correlated with a 12% higher risk of heart disease. Another pertinent piece comes from Johnson et al., 2021, titled Microbial Proteins and Post-Translational Modifications in Nature Biotechnology. Johnson's team investigated genetically engineered proteins for food applications and discovered that microbes frequently introduced unexpected molecular structures. These modifications were shown to elicit immune responses in animal models, hinting that lab-grown dairy could provoke gut permeability and inflammatory states in humans. Smith and Rodriguez, 2020, in Comparative Lipid Profiles, Grass-Fed versus Laboratory Fermented Dairy Fats, published in Lipids in Health and Disease, examined the structural composition of fats derived from grass-fed bovine milk and fats derived from microbial fermentation. They reported that microbial fats lacked certain phospholipids necessary for vitamin transport and that they often contained higher proportions of omega-6 fatty acids relative to beneficial omega-3s. The conclusion warned of potential pro-inflammatory effects if these synthetic fats were consumed regularly. Hormonal Regulation of Cholesterol and Steroid Synthesis by Kim et al., 2018, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, provided insights into how dietary cholesterol from natural sources supports hormone production. Though it did not mention artificial dairy, the findings concluded that a lack of dietary cholesterol could disrupt the body's ability to maintain stable testosterone and estrogen levels. This study's implication for those consuming cholesterol-free or cholesterol-poor synthetic dairy is profound. For those specifically interested in insulin resistance and metabolic function, Chang et al., 2017, authored Synthetic Emulsifiers, Gut Microbiota, and Insulin Resistance in Cell Metabolism. They showed that certain emulsifiers commonly used in lab-created foods heightened gut inflammation and insulin resistance, an especially critical discovery for carnivores who rely on stable insulin levels to remain in ketosis. In a subsequent study focusing on mental and neurodegenerative health, Dietary Fats, Neuroinflammation, and Cognitive Outcomes by Oberfeld et al. On 2022, published in the Journal of Neuroinflammation, concluded that the presence of MCTs, medium-chain triglycerides, and natural phospholipids significantly improved neuronal function, whereas artificially engineered fats offered no such protective effect. The study pointed to a potential increase in neuroinflammation when synthetic fats replaced real fats in the diet. Finally, Rogers et al., 2021, in Autoimmune Reactivity to Engineered Food Proteins, published in Immunology Reviews, documented that a subset of genetically engineered proteins tested in mice triggered higher levels of certain autoantibodies, especially in models predisposed to autoimmune disease. They cautioned that large-scale human trials would be necessary to confirm safety. Given the prevalence of individuals on carnivore diets who are managing autoimmunity, this finding is particularly alarming. Collectively, these studies piece together a mosaic of potential hazards linked to heavy processing, genetic engineering, synthetic fats, and disrupted nutrient synergy. That mosaic strongly suggests we approach lab-grown cheese, milk, and butter with caution or outright skepticism. Well, in simple words, the synergy of nutrients in real animal-based foods remains unmatched by synthetic copies. The entire reason so many people experience dramatic recoveries on a carnivore diet stems from the bioavailability, fat-soluble vitamins, natural fatty acids, and profoundly low inflammatory impact found in real, unprocessed animal products. Synthetic dairy's heavy reliance on genetically engineered proteins, emulsifiers, chemical additives, and industrial fats can disrupt the delicate metabolic and immune harmony these diets aim to restore. Even more worrisome is the possibility that adopting these artificial foods could open the door to a resurgence of the very chronic illnesses people worked so hard to reverse. As individuals invested in our own health, it falls upon us to remain vigilant. We should question breathless media coverage that praises these products without addressing the potential for immune reactions, nutrient deficiencies, and corporate overreach. We should champion transparent labeling laws that explicitly state these products are derived from genetically modified microbes. And we should support regenerative and traditional farmers who steward the land, treat animals humanely, and produce real dairy rich in the micronutrients we need for our long-term health and wellness. By the way, what is your opinion about this new innovation? And how has been your health journey going so far? Which diet plan are you following? Keto or carnivore? Do share your experience in the comments. Subscribe now to our channel Carnivore Squad and never miss any update related to your vital health and wellness. Press the like button if you found this video helpful and share it with your friends and family as well. And do you know? What were the findings of the carnivore study which was kept hidden for last 50 years? Click the video showing up on the screen to find that out. See you there.